It's there. A feeling that there's more to do, more things to see. Hear the call from this sacred place. Let it wake your senses from a deep sleep and inspire you to go further than you've gone before. This is the place where adventure cascades down mountains and into bloodstreams. Where each moment invites you to live larger than you've ever dreamed. Here, you'll meet someone new. The person you've always wanted to be. Welcome to Queenstown, the home of adventure.
Learning firsthand from the people who live it and breathe it every single day. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Linda McIntosh, all the way from Queenstown. Welcome.
Beautiful. Thanks, Renata, and welcome to those of you who could join our little 101 session today. It's such a pleasure to be able to deliver this training to you, and just really for us to get reconnected and embark on this journey of tourism and travel and getting your clients to New Zealand and then to our beautiful little corner of the world. So I'm very mindful of time. I'm going to try and keep things pretty short and sweet and run through things in quite like at a steady pace, just so that we can really hopefully open up the floor to a little bit of Q&A at the end. It's obviously always really hard to know where I pitch, what you do know or what you need to learn, or for any of those sort of burning questions that you might have. So I'm going to start just now with sharing over my screen with you, and we'll get underway. I've got my notes here in front of me too, because I do like to make sure that I'm not going to miss on any of the particular details. So, but look, let's plunge right in. We are going to run through a little bit about what makes Queenstown unique. We're going to look at the flight connections and maps once people are here, and just really understanding how easy and accessible we are to get around. We are a year-round destination. We're very lucky in that regard that we are 4 seasons. So no matter when your clients wish to travel, at what time of the year, there is something for them. And then we're going to break down just the key segments. Why come to Queenstown? What would that look like? And just, I'll touch on a little bit of those kind of key pillars. We're going to talk a little bit about food and wine, because that's something that underpins all of the above experiences that can be enjoyed in Queenstown. I'm also going to touch on day trips, because we are really the gateway to some pretty remarkably beautiful, little further than our front doorstep areas to also make sure that you're putting into your clients' itineraries. I'll touch on a little bit about accommodation as well and the broad scope of what's available. And then I'm going to talk you through a whole bunch of agent tools and resources and ways that we can stay connected, so that you can basically reach out to me at any time and be delivered to your inbox updates of your accommodation and activities and so on and so forth. So let's plunge in. Basically, what makes Queenstown unique is that we've got really these kind of 4 key core propositions that we like you to think of when it comes to thinking of Queenstown. So the first is our pioneering history, right from early Maori to the early settlers to the discovery of gold. We have been a tourism town with many wine and pioneering adventure activities and technologies. So it's really proficient. It's really one of those things that is quite striking when you come to us as a destination, being that we do really have this pioneering history under our belt. The second, as you can see in the photograph, is the powerful landscapes. We're this really small resort town surrounded by an epicenter of beautiful mountains, surrounded by the lake, that just really makes you want to kind of get outdoors and get off and out there and into the hills and adventure. The third is that we have been renowned for the longest of long times to be the adventure capital of the world. There is truly something for everyone to experience, whether that's out on the lake, up in the air, or on top of mountains. And then finally, and I think it's a statement that goes for all travel, but there's this really transformative effect that you get when you do go out there and you are adventuring and you're in our corner of the world, that really just get people to be pushed beyond their boundaries, their comfort zones, and just get out there in the landscape, in our backyard, and have a great time, obviously, all while doing it. So, but let's move on. How obviously are we going to get your clients here? It's so exciting to know that we are really reconnecting back with the world. In New Zealand, amazes me how they must try to recreate tourism back when we've obviously all gone on a bit of a hiatus, New Zealand especially. So with our borders opening up all fully from the 31st of July, for all travellers, it's really exciting just to see that we've got airline capacity and routes that are all opening back up. So they've got the direct Air New Zealand non-stop flights from LAX to San Francisco to Auckland, and we're all set to resume Honolulu to Auckland from the 4th of July, Houston to Auckland from the 7th of July. Air New Zealand's also launching their inaugural New York to Auckland flight from the 17th of September. And they're also resuming their non-stop service from Chicago through to Auckland from the 30th of October. So some great gateways there to get right to our corner of the world. American Airlines also had recently announced the returning from the 29th of October, their daily flight between Dallas, Fort Worth and Auckland, and that will operate through that peak summer season through to the 25th of March, and also returning is their LAX to Auckland from the 1st of November. Air Canada returning their service from the 12th of November with three flights a week from Vancouver to Auckland. So we've got some great access points from our market to yours and vice versa. I'm going to talk a little bit just on the Trans-Tasman flight connection. You know, historically, about 50–60% of people who will come down under will quite often undertake the dual visit destination. So Queenstown is an international airport. We do receive daily flights in from Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. And with those are all sort of set to resume from this month. So just really good to keep in the back of your mind if you do have clients that are wishing to see both countries, that we are obviously very accessible. In the flight time, there's really only about 3.5 hours on average from those three ports. Excuse me. Next comes up once people are obviously into New Zealand and not just being maybe to our international airport with the flights that I've just mentioned from Australia. But if people are obviously taking in both islands, the main obviously gateway here is Auckland. It's one of the most connected Australasian hubs. So really easy, accessible, and obviously there are those flight options that get people into Christchurch, so direct into the South Island. Once you are here in New Zealand, we're a really short flight. It's only 1.5 hours from Auckland into Queenstown. It's about 1 hour, 20 minutes from Wellington, and we're just about a 45-minute flight from Christchurch. So really easy, very accessible. And the other good thing just to note there, that people who might say maybe fly into one of the other major hubs in New Zealand, there's also the Southern Scenic touring route. So just if you've got someone that might want to come in from Christchurch and then come down that lower part of the South Island, or maybe they might like to come down from the West Coast, we've got major sort of state highways making it really accessible for self-drive clients or people who are obviously just maybe on a coach series tour as well. But once you're here, I thought it's kind of relevant just to really give you a bit of a condensed version of what our actual little footprint looks like. So I'm not too sure if you can see my cursor, but basically from the airport to Queenstown, driving along this beautiful little Frankton Road arterial, that's only a 15-minute drive. So really, as you can see in the photograph, with the beautiful mountains in the lake, and that's sort of the hub of our resort town. But we're very easily accessible to get around. So once people have got here, if that's by plane, it's really easy to get into the main township, whether they're on a taxi or an airport shuttle or a bus, or if they're hiring a rental vehicle. So yeah, just a 15-minute drive. To the northern end of our lake is Glenorchy. So this is a border of a World Heritage Area. I am going to talk a little bit more about this special place in a few slides. But that's only a 45-minute drive. If you were coming out toward Arrowtown, which is our 1860s town born of gold, so a lot of charm and heritage, that's only about a 20-minute drive from downtown Queenstown. And then out to the right of the map here, the Gibbston Valley, which is known as the Valley of the Vines, which is where we're renowned with our local Pinot Noir, sampling that, but that's only about a 25-minute drive. So you can kind of really see in the circumference of the Wakatupu Basin just how easy things are to get around. Talking a little bit about just that four-season proposition, and that's really just because of our unique positioning being 45 degrees south of the equator. So we certainly don't get the high variance of temperatures from the northern hemisphere that you might get between summer and winter. We definitely have four very distinct seasons due to this positioning on the map there. But talking a little bit about each season, because this is really what makes Queenstown unique, no matter when your clients do choose to come and travel to Queenstown. But in winter, we really come alive. We've got 4 ski fields. We're cusping the winter season at the moment. Our mountains should all be starting to open up within the next few weeks, which is really exciting. So we are a really amazing winter playground. We are also through the spring period, where they really say that there's nothing that you can't do. You could be up skiing in the morning and you could be playing a round of golf by the afternoon, and we start to really see that increase of daylight. In summertime, we really do get long daylight hours with a late twilight. It's as light as early as sort of 6 a.m. in the morning, and it's not actually dark at night till about sort of 10:30, nearly 11 o'clock. So you can really pack in a lot and just really enjoy that beautiful kind of like evening dusk settle and downtown and the vibrancy of the area with all the restaurants and the bars and what have you. And then in autumn, we've obviously got beautiful autumnal colour that comes alive. It's a beautiful time for rejuvenation, for getting people out into the walking trails, still playing rounds of golf. They might be on their bikes. So really, no matter the season, your clients can experience a lot. But we're going to talk a little bit now about kind of those core segments as to why your clients would come to Queenstown, what it is that they can expect. So given that we are known as the adventure capital of the world, it's a testament that we are having adventure pioneers who have really created these technologies that is a very distinct undercurrent when you come to town, and it's that quality of, like I say, that makes people just want to get outside to experience this all for themselves. So we are the home of many firsts. So those being that we've had the world's first commercial jet boating, bungee jumping, as you can see in the photograph here. We've had New Zealand's first commercial ski fields. There's been river surfing, river boarding, paragliding, skydiving, you name it, it's been created. And those are those adventures that is essentially what has created our being termed the home of adventure, or the adventure capital of the world. So, and obviously, as it's being already said, it's a year-round ability to be able to come and experience these particular adventure activities. So essentially, it really underpins the culture of what we offer here as a visitor destination. The next, talking a little bit about biking. This is really one of those things in a post-COVID world that has really gained quite a lot of traction. There's a lot of development that's happened here. We've got about 130 kilometres. I think if I put in there, it's about 80 miles of trail development and networks that are all accessible from downtown Queenstown. So we've also got, for the quite hardcore mountain bikers, 3 aerial assisted lift access parks. So Skyline, which you can actually see in the photograph there up to the top of Bob's Peak, is fed by gravity-fed sort of downhill trails through the landscape of the forest. Also Coronet Peak and Cardrona Alpine Resort also doing summer operation for downhill biking. But the more leisure aspect of biking, I'm not too sure what it's like for each of you in your hometowns, but e-biking has really just been one of those things that has really taken off here, and rightly so, because it allows people to just kind of get out there, explore these amazing networks and trails by the lakeside, past rivers, through waterfalls, native forests, suspension bridges, and we are actually the access point to 5 of the great rides as well. So the first one being the Queenstown Trail, and then also the Around the Mountains bike trail, the Central Otago Rail Trail, which is very popular, the Roxburgh Gorge Trail, the Clutha Gold Trail, and the most recent addition, which is the Lake Dunstan Trail as well. So all accessible from Queenstown, and whether people are choosing to independently explore these networks or choose more of an assisted level of riding, there's options for all levels and all abilities. When it comes to golf, we've actually got 7 spectacular golf courses that are all within about a 25-minute drive from downtown Queenstown. The photograph here is of Jack's Point. So as you can see, there's beautiful golf courses in very picturesque locations. 3 of the golf courses are championship courses, and 4 are experience courses. But basically, clients have a selection of the resorts to play in, which is Millbrook Resort. You've got Jack's Point, the Hills, Queenstown, and the Arrowtown Golf Club, the Frankton Golf Centre, and Kingston Golf Club, which is just south, the very south end of Lake Wakatipu. So multi-award-winning courses and a diverse range of golfing experience, again, for all kind of catered to all abilities of golfer. And we've got some pretty amazing local golf operators that can actually really cater to tailoring an experience of keen golfers here when they are visiting the basin. So we are also the host destination for the New Zealand Open, which is played at the Hills Golf Course and Millbrook Resort. Next up comes up our hiking in nature. The photograph here I always get asked, so I'll quickly mention, but this is the Earnslaw Burn, which is up in Glenorchy, and a very short scenic helicopter ride from Glenorchy Township into this beautiful amphitheatre of quite a nature masterpiece, as you can see. But basically, Queenstown at every turn has some pretty incredible landscape that's very easily accessible for anyone who is into hiking in nature. Most important to note here is that we are the access point to 3 of New Zealand's Great Walks. So that's the Rootburn, the Milford Track, and the Kepler Trail. All access from Queenstown, but in addition to that, you can also access multiple national parks and conservation areas, and a range of obviously other outdoor experiences. So again, people can choose to come here and independently through the Department of Conservation, learn about what hiking trails they may wish to explore, or they could have a fully hosted experience, perhaps in one of like the Rootburn or the Milford Track, so where actually you've got just a small pack and you've got a beautiful bed and all meals provided and track transport and so on and so forth. So some great options for exploring the landscape through hiking and walking out in nature. The next, which I've already kind of touched on, being that we are the home of winter, we've got 4 ski fields, all accessed from Queenstown again. So photograph here is actually of Coronet Peak, that's the closest to downtown. It's only about a 20-25 minute drive on a sealed access road from the main centre of town. And then looking over the valley floor there is towards the remarkable ski field. That's about a 45-minute drive from town. Both of these mountains, which are accessed on the Queenstown Wakatipu Basin side, are both owned by NZ Ski. And then over the Crown Range is the Cardrona Alpine Resort and Treble Cone Ski Area, which are both owned by Real NZ. Cardrona is only about 1.5 hours drive from Queenstown, and Treble Cone's just under 2 hours to access. Really good to note here that in winter we are what you call like the White Mountain Green Valley, just as you see in the photograph. We're not like the Northern Hemisphere where you can really be blanketed under a bunch of snow, which can kind of maybe halt the local economy from daily operations. It really is as per the photograph, which gives you that lovely complement of the year-round ability to access most activities because of the snow predominantly being falling up on the mountains and not downtown. So just really good to note that. And then comes being that experience that we all love to enjoy at the end of the day, being out there and adventuring, and that's food and wine. And I think it really is an experience, like I said, that underpins all of the other segments and that pulls people back together into the centre of town. There are so many restaurants and bars to choose from that cater again to all dietary requirements and interests and any special occasion. So there's over 150 restaurants and bars and cafes to choose from, so you really are spoilt for choice. We've got some incredible award-winning restaurants and really innovative qualities from local and passionate chefs. So I think that really kind of comes through in the food offering, and just being that I think that's that experience that many destinations now can talk about, but really foraging through that kind of seasonality and highlighting local produce. That's the key flavour of the season. So yeah, so I think that there's a great amount of fine dining restaurants, too many obviously to go through in too great a length of detail, but obviously it's just an integral part of any holiday, isn't it, when we all come back at the end of the day and recount our day's adventuring stories. Talking a little bit about day trips, I am going to just pause really quickly because Queenstown is the access point to some pretty incredible places that are just a little bit further afield from our doorstep. So we'll take a quick little look through those. The first is Arrowtown. This is where I've mentioned we're an 1860s town born of gold. So the main street here, which is Buckingham Street that you can see in the photograph, is really just that beautiful charming and heritage of the era of 1860s town born of gold. It's a beautiful display. It's a very iconic visitor destination, especially in the autumn season, as you can see in the photograph with the changing of the colours. There's award-winning restaurants, there's beautiful little boutique shops and ice creameries and fudge stores. It's only a 20-minute drive from Queenstown, so really good one to make sure that you do have as an inclusion to someone who really wants to step back into a bit more of the heritage of the Wakatipu Basin. We've also got the historic Chinese gold miners village right down by the Arrow River. The Lakes District Museum is here, where you can actually even still, you can hire a gold pan and still pan for gold in the Arrow River. So really you can make a whole day of visiting Arrowtown. Next up, excuse me, comes Gibbston. So Gibbston Valley is known as the Valley of Vines, and this is our local wine growing region. It's about a 25-minute drive from downtown Queenstown, and a great way to just fill up a full day, whether you're maybe experiencing either a half-day guided experience visiting a few of the cellar doors, maybe it's a full-day experience. And we are the access point, so from Gibbston to drive through to central Otago, and between those sort of two regions, you can actually access nearly, I think it's close to 200 cellar doors to sample wine. So if you do have someone who is a wine enthusiast, will absolutely want to make sure that they're heading out to Gibbston. And again, people can obviously independently visit the wineries, or they can obviously join a small group boutique-sized tour, and they can explore further afield through to Central Otago as well. So Gibbston's also home to the original Cowrail Bungee Bridge, so just good to note that as well. And e-biking through the wines is also really one of those things that has gained quite a bit of popularity as well here. So people can hire an e-bike and have assisted riding where they can independently go through the different wineries, and at the end of the day call for a pickup and be returned to their accommodation. Next up comes Glenorchy. So this is the northern end of Lake Wakatipu. It's a 45-minute drive from downtown Queenstown that I mentioned earlier, and it's a World Heritage area. So you're bordered here by 2 national parks, and those really are just a short drive access from actually the frontier town of Glenorchy itself. So it's Fiordland National Park and Mount Aspiring National Park. Dart River Safaris is what's in the photograph here that really gets you into the upper reaches of the Dart River, and it's the access point to those 2 New Zealand Great Walks, the Milford Track and the Route Burn. It's also been the cinematic backdrop to some pretty amazing films as well. Lord of the Rings, which hopefully most of you already know about, filmed with this as the backdrop. So as you can see, it's a pretty natural backdrop for a movie set. But there's plenty of ways to get out there and explore this region. So whether that's just walking from the main little township, if you're out jet boating with Dart River, you can take scenic helicopter flights into the Earnswell Burn, which I'd shown you in the picture earlier. You can get out on a horseback ride, you can be kayaking, 4-wheel drive tours, many great ways to explore this little corner of the basin. Next up comes Milford and Doubtful Sound. So again, being the access point to these 2 iconic New Zealand very stunning landscape, no matter which weather pattern that you're visiting, whether it's a beautiful sunshine day or whether or not, even with torrential rain and all of the waterfalls that kind of cascade out of the mountains that surround the fjord itself. Best way to always include this into an itinerary is by doing a seat-in coach on one of the access parts, then obviously you're cruising on Milford Sound, and then the scenic flight to return, just because you'll get the most amazing view of all of the landscape of the region. But once people are there on the Sound, they can actually cruise on boats for about up to 2 hours, and they can also have access into the underwater observatory to really just understand a little bit more about the marine and sea life as well. Doubtful Sound also is actually an accessed day trip. You can overnight in both of these with Real NZ on sort of vessel boats that are a truly incredible way to experience either of the Sounds. So there's a lot of operators that do function from in here, so I'm not going to break anything down specific by operator, but we can take some of that into the Q&A if there's further questions. But just a really beautiful and iconic place to, if you have people coming through to Queenstown, to really book them in for a day or an overnight experience here. Next up comes accommodation, because obviously once you've kind of gone through all of the key segments that I've already gone through, is where are people going to rest their head at the end of the day. Photographed here is actually Blanket Bay, so we've got some amazing award-winning luxury lodges available for clients. Blanket Bay itself is also located up in Glenorchy, but there's many options to choose from, again, for any sort of style, budget, clientele need or requirement, whether that just be if people are independently coming through in a camper van and needing sort of sophisticated, world-class camping grounds. We've got those in holiday parks, or if they're after more of just like a dedicated hotel or resort that may be more sort of central to Queenstown, so that they have all the restaurants and bars right on their doorstep, with lots of obviously add-on facilities like drying rooms, ski gear, swimming pools, or in-house dining and other options. If you've got extended families travelling that perhaps like to be a little bit more sufficient, or groups of friends, there's many accommodation options from holiday homes that can cater to people that maybe just have not wanting to stay in the main hotels, but plenty of serviced apartments as well that can accommodate that type of traveller. And then, as I've already mentioned, you've got these incredible award-winning accommodations that really sort of are these sophisticated and very private retreats that people can experience if they're just really wanting to step a little bit out into the backcountry of Queenstown and surrounds. But then obviously once we've also covered all of those details, it's really good to just part with you a bit about all of the agent tools and resources. So obviously there's many developments that have come to pass over the last couple of years, especially with out travellers. So I'm going to just touch on a little bit about how we can keep you up to date on what those new developments might look like for the accommodation or the activities or places to dine and enjoy nights out, our airline connectivity. I'm going to tell you how we can kind of basically keep you up to speed on all of that. So first up, I would recommend joining our newsletter, because just giving you a summary of what you can see on the screen here at the moment, this is development from the last few years. So a very top line summary of accommodation and activities and food and drink options. So in about the last 4 years, our accommodation offering has actually increased by close to 40% of capacity. And that attributed obviously to the accommodation that you can see listed here. So just really good to know. So you can be kept up to date with what those developments are, which we encourage you to join up and sign to our newsletter. We send these out quarterly, so every 3 months at the beginning of each new season, and we cover off exactly that, what the new accommodation is, what developments there might be, what new activities, if there's an adaptation to a product offering, if there's been a refurbishment, if there's been a slight product adaptation. So basically it's everything direct to your inbox so that you can actually look through that at your leisure and then click to find out obviously those latest and greatest details. And then next comes up newsletters into your inbox. If you're a bit more into the social capacity, you can join our closed Facebook group for travel sellers. We're getting some really good traction here. So we're actually posting real-time updates, quite active in the space, posting schedule there a couple times a week at the moment. So we do encourage you to otherwise join our Facebook group. And then we were also creating over the COVID period a lot of videos for streaming on demand, so further trainings where Alex and I, who I'm joined with on the team, have really gone out and about around the Wakatipu Basin, and we've profiled businesses and really just kind of tried to bring a little bit to life what your clients can see and experience from a visit at the different types of the seasons of throughout the year. So we've housed all of those videos into a dedicated YouTube channel, which also highlights past familiars that we've hosted, so giving people's account of their first-hand experience of Queenstown. There's how to sell videos. We've also got little snackable edits of operators videos so that you can actually just get a little bit of a micro training again for a particular activity that maybe you've not experienced firsthand, but it'll just help kind of bring to life what that experience would be for your clients. So yeah, the YouTube channel is a really good one just to know that everything's there all consolidated in one little happy place. And then comes the Travel Trade website. So we've actually just launched a new micro trade website, again with all of the tools mentioned from the newsletter to the socials to if you're needing a little bit more detail, not just PowerPoint or live webinars. You can look at our seasonal training and product updates. Those are the stream on demand where Alex and I, like I say, we're out and about in the Wakatipu Basin profiling operators and what's new for the season. There are further downloadable training presentations and PowerPoints as well. Those do have train the trainer notes, so they're really good if you've got new people on the team that are joining that just again need a bit of an overview. and broken down by segments of the adrenaline, adventure, of hiking or biking, the winter and ski proposition, or luxury. So they're well worth checking out. And we've also got a bunch of marketing tools there for your socials, for your website, for your brochures. You're most welcome to download the copy that's available. You can use the Home of Adventure video that Renata played at the very beginning of this for all of those, for your social channels as well. You might even be looking just to kind of do a bit of a refresh of your images, maybe through your brochures, your websites, or your socials as well. So you're welcome to obviously use royalty-free images from those marketing resources and tools as well. And then I'm going to open up to a little bit of Q&A. So before I unshare my screen, I'll just leave that up for a moment, because basically that's going to give you my contact details. You've got my email there, you've got my phone. You're always welcome to reach out and touch base with me. I think it's really important just to kind of note that, you know, being the regional tourism office here in Queenstown, that we are your eyes and ears. So basically we can be very impartial and very neutral in respect of what it might look like for client inclusions for you. So you can basically just reach out to me at any time, and we can always take further conversations offline and help you where we can. So
wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Linda. Yes, we've got about 5 minutes left for Q&A. If you have any questions about that presentation, it was incredibly in-depth. But while we wait for questions, just a reminder that we have 6 bottles of New Zealand wine from the Queenstown area. It's Central Otago, which is a beautiful red wine. A Pinot Noir in particular is very well known in this region. We have 6 bottles to give away to people on this call, and we're going to select those at random at the end of this presentation. But while we wait for the questions to come through, we had a couple of questions come in while you were presenting, Linda, and they're very interesting questions. This is from Richard. Where can I purchase a shirt like Linda's?
Oh, that's so nice. This is actually our team uniform. It's an icebreaker top. Icebreaker merino actually comes from Walter Peak. So when you actually take the TSS Earnslaw and you go over to Walter Peak, and you are part of you can see the live interaction and farm and the sheep shearing demos that they do, but actually a lot of the merino sheep come from that corner of the world. So you can get your lovely little merino top.
Very nice and warm.
Icebreaker online. It's very nice and warm. It's a quintessential item. It's all about the layers.
Exactly. Icebreaker is available in both Canada and the USA as well. Icebreaker.com, I think, but I will look that one up. And then we had another couple of questions, and Judy has a couple here. Judy loves the video from the beginning. Is it available for us to use on social?
Absolutely, and you will access that through our YouTube channel. We do have a 60 seconds, just a 1 minute or a 2 minute edit that you're welcome to look through. The YouTube channel, which is just for our travel trade, but for Queenstown NZ.NZ, which is the regional tourism office, we look after consumer media, not just travel trade, but there are other further snackable edits that break down winter and ski. We've got food and wine ones there. There's the walking, hiking, biking. So you can you could look at all of those on the main YouTube channel as well. So if you're on our website, you can check those out, and you can always email me, and I can Dropbox files to you as well.
Perfect. We have one more question from Judy about what are the average temperatures in Queenstown in the summer and the winter time, excluding the mountains. If you answer that in Celsius, I'll try and convert that quickly to Fahrenheit.
Okay, I think actually I might have even have that in my notes. For summer, typically we're like the 20 to 30 degree temperature. So to be at a 30 degree temperature is a very warm day. And obviously just because we are 300 meters above sea level, So we actually do have, 4 seasons in a year, but you can get 4 seasons in a day. It's not uncommon that maybe if a cold southerly blows through in the middle of summer that we could end up having some snow sort of sprinkled on the top of the mountains. But your range there from 20 to 30 degrees for your high, and maybe
so that's for the US market, that is 70 to about 85 Fahrenheit.
And then for winter, that's a bit of a variance too. So if we were just looking from downtown, you might be anything from -2, -2, -3, and you might get up to like 8 degrees. So south side of 10 degrees. So I'm not quite sure what that would be with your.
So -2 is 28 degrees Fahrenheit, and then 10 degrees is 50 Fahrenheit.
Well done. Well done.
So there you go. Thank you, Google.
Yeah.
So that seemed to be quite a comprehensive overview of everything, and I think you've answered quite a lot of the questions that were that everyone sort of had available, that they had for you. So I think it might be time to draw 6 names for those bottles of wine. If I could, I'd like to offer 3 that are honorary mentions for the top question giver on the audience today. How about Judy Holiday? Judy Holiday, if you can private message us in the chat your address, we will get you that bottle of Central Otago Pinot Noir for you. And how about, let's see, Richard was the first person to log on. That was always my other go-to, is to get the person who logged on first, but Richard seems to have logged off already. But how about Paddy Collar? Paddy Collar, congratulations, you are at the top of my list. If you wanted to private message us your address as well, and we'll get that bottle of New Zealand wine out to you also. Molly Tom, here you're sitting right beneath Paddy, so Molly Tom, if you can private message us as well, we'll get that bottle of Central Otago Pinot Noir through to you. Laurie Klein, you've been on the call since the very beginning. If you could send us your address as well, we'll get that bottle of wine delivered out to you. How about Laetitia Semper? Laetitia Semper, thank you for logging on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you could private message us. And we have 1 more bottle of wine to give away today. Charukana. Charukana, if you are able to private message us your address, and we'll get that wine sent in the mail. Linda, thank you so much for your time today. Is there any last regards from your end?
No, just look, thank you. It's always a pleasure to, and I know it's always a lot of information to kind of throw at you and keeping it at that top line. So just to, again, echo that sentiment of joining the newsletter or joining us on our socials, and just know that you can reach out to me at any time and we can always have more in-depth conversations. I am here to help. And we're just really excited that obviously our 2 great countries can reconnect and we get your clients down under to the home of adventure.
Perfect. Well, everyone, thank you very much for your time. We're so excited that New Zealand is back. It's more accessible than ever. There will be 50 flights a week this year through to Auckland, and then on to a 2-hour flight through to Queenstown, the home of adventure. Thank you, Linda, for your time as well. I know it's very early down there, but having your knowledge is something that we can't get anywhere else. So thank you very much. How we say goodbye is we say haere rā, kia hoki mai anō. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again next time.